Hello, welcome back, and it's good to see you. Uh, and it's also great to see so many more people subscribing to my network, to my YouTube channel. It's always great that people are exploring and looking for more in life, especially these days with so much going on. You know, for the last 16 years, since 2008, we have been in a we've been in a cycle where governments around the world globally have been collapsing, have been reconfiguring. And a lot of it has been motivated by finances. That's really the underlying reason and attribute that causes governments to collapse, usually with sovereign debt crises, which our 1930 Great Depression was a sovereign debt crisis. Our country, the United States, and many other countries were not able to pay their loans. And God knows governments take out lots of loans. So we're going to be looking at that cycle. Astrologically, it's called the Pluto in Capricorn cycle, and that's only one of three cycles that are in play right now, and three of these are coming to a peak. So we'll be looking at many websites that take this into consideration. Hi, my name is JJ from Paranormal Talks, paranormaltalks.com, and we are educational and we show people things that most of us are taught not to consider and not to look at, especially abilities about ourselves. Anyway, here's our website, Paranormal Talks. If you want to know more about me, you can just click on About Us and scroll down, and there should be. Okay, I want to take a look at the cheat sheet that gives you some background, a basis for where we're going as an update to this Pluto and Capricorn cycle, because I started posting these videos in May of 2019. Some of the real basic ones, drawing from sources and methodologies that have very high percentage of accuracy. The computer systems as well as woo-woo stuff, and astrology being more like the woo-woo stuff. So let's take a look at the cheat sheet. You can scroll through this at your leisure. Move over here. Okay. There are three major cycles in play, and here's some blah, blah, blah about some of the sources that I pull from. But let's scroll down here, and this is it. Here are the three cycles, and astrology has a language, just as medicine has a language, physics has a language, science has a language, law has a language. Well, astrology also has a language, and unlike all the other languages, which are based on Latin and Greek, astrology is a very esoteric language that's based on, who knows, astronomy and whatever else. Anyway, so astrology, these timings are very similar to those shown by the Socrates quantum computer system developed by Martin Armstrong of Armstrong Economics. So number two here is Pluto and Capricorn. What does that mean? Translated to English, it's the implosion, destruction, and rebirth of governments and institutions around the world. We're going to be looking at Russia. That's the death of their past government and what it's evolving to now a little bit. We'll be looking at a number of countries. So this Pluto in Capricorn, the planet in the sky, Pluto, in the constellation sign Capricorn, which Capricorn is just one of 12 constellation signs. That finishes with our planet in December of 2024. So we have a bit more to go through yet, but we have been, for the last 16 years, a lot of governments around the world have really been stressed and have been changed. They've been changing the easy way and the hard way. That's how it is with the government, isn't it? But something about a planet, when it's about to leave a constellation sign, that's when things really heat up. That's when things get really hot, 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 and active. And we'll be looking at some of the news postings on some of those things that are happening. So hang on to your hats, because December 24th, all these changes with government, it's not finished with us. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, yes, yes. I want to mention that in particular, not only Pluto in Capricorn affects all the governments, all the institutions around the world. For America, it's very special. It's even more so because the United States was born when Pluto was already in the constellation sign Capricorn. That was 250 years ago. And it takes Pluto 250 years to begin at this point and go all the way around and then come back to where it started. That takes 250 years. Well, Pluto's coming back to where it started in our country, America, February 22nd, 2022. So it will be even more so for us, a real scraping of our entire government. And I think a lot of us are seeing this now. We don't quite know what it is, but many of us say that it's Trump destroying the world, destroying our country. Well, it would be destroyed either way. It doesn't matter who would be in office. It is time for our particular government to die, to be transformed and reborn. Let's look at the chart from the Socrates quantum computer system. This is the stuff I'm talking about, the timing. So there's astrology that has very, very, very close timing with the Socrates quantum computer system. So here we are. I want to show you, because what good is a prediction unless it's precise and as accurate as possible, right? Who cares unless it's accurate? So March 14th of 2022, this is the culmination and breakdown in reconfiguration of our government in the United States. We are special that way. In this case, we don't want to be so special. Let's look at some websites of what's going on. Okay, we finished with that. Yeah. Here's our YouTube channel, and this is one of the videos I made about the end of the US government, the end transformation. And I just keep updating as more and more information evolves, because how it manifests can be very different, very unique, depending on how we, the people, wanted to manifest. Okay, let's look at Russia, though. Now, this is interesting. Get out of here. This is interesting. Entire Russian government resigns as Putin introduces policy changes. When is the last time you heard that happen? Actually, Russia had a complete implosion of their Federal Reserve Bank system in 1998. Many of us didn't even hear about that. That was caused by the United States, by the CIA. Russia is very rich in natural resources, and Chevron and Shell and all these oil and gas companies, man, they want to get in there and own those resources and develop them. But anyway, that was in 1998. And now we have this, and this was announced January 15, 2020. As I said, as a planet, a big planet, it's big as far as influence. Pluto is. It's big as far as influence, not as far as diameter or mileage or anything. It's quite influential. Pluto is that planet that is all or nothing. It's either black or white. It's either dead or alive. It never does anything halfway or in grays. It does things totally. So the entire Russian government resigns as Putin introduces policy changes. And there's a lot of speculation and all that, but these things aren't very surprising. Now, something about Pluto in Capricorn and with the implosion of governments as we know them, that also takes the form of secession, such as states in the United States wanting to secede from the federal government. Parts of Europe want to secede from like Catalonia wants to secede from Spain. Parts of Italy want to secede from Italy. In France, parts of France want to secede. So secession is a real hallmark of that. And of course, the Brexit, that was sort of a new, the death of one type of government where they all report to Brussels, which is not England, Brussels is not, and go back to running their own government as they wish it to run. So that's an example of the implosion and transformation of a government. England. I'm not showing that since it's sort of recent. Anyway, so there's all these changes, and people are saying all kinds of stuff about Putin doing this for his own selfish his own selfish, greedy agenda, but that's not so true. Putin has already nominated Mikhail Mishustin, head of Russia's taxation service, to replace Medvedev, a prime minister. Medvedev is expected to serve as deputy head of the National Security Council. And people have said, oh, well, Putin is just kicking Medvedev to the curbside. Yeah. Well, that's not so true, because Medvedev is a longtime Putin ally who served as president from 2008 to 2012, while Putin served as prime minister. So these two guys are sort of just switching places in a sense, and still staying within each other's orbits. I'm sure that they really trust each other. Putin trusts Medvedev. Okay, here's another one. And these are all rather recent. I gotta turn this off. Here's another posting. Russia Parliament fast tracks Putin's constitutional changes because Vladimir Putin is an evil guy. Well, maybe not so much. And this talks about here, the constitutional changes broaden the powers of both houses of parliament. It's not Putin taking more control for himself and being evil and ruling his empire. No, it is actually broadening and giving more power to both houses of parliament, and it would weaken the role of the president. That is Putin. He's president, right? It would weaken his power, and he's after that for a very good reason. The State Council, an advisory body made up of regional leaders and governors, will also be included in the Constitution, though it is unclear what function it will have. Putin said in a speech that there should be the broadest possible public discussion of the suggested changes. He also said there should be a vote on them. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but I think he's been pretty consistent in what he's been saying. And no, I don't want to look at that. Okay, I want to say some things about this. Is there was a site where I went through and looked at all the new changes to the Constitution that Putin is demanding. And it's actually removing a lot of power from the presidential position. Why? Because Putin has found in his country, Russia, there are external sovereign nations who come in and they do a coup and they put their own person in the position of the president of Russia, who's not loyal to Russia, not loyal to the Russian people, doesn't care about the Russian people. That new president that some sovereign country put in, and by the way, the CIA has been very, very mischievous in doing this sort of thing in Russia, is that puppet that has been put in place because that president of Russia has so much power. They just rape the country of resources and wealth and anything that they want to take, and then give it to their buddies who are pulling their strings. So he wants to reduce the power of the presidency of Russia. That's one thing. And then a couple other things is he wants representatives for certain areas of Russia, which is not being undertaken so much. The representatives they do have in place of the areas of Russia, they don't even have to be Russian citizens. They don't even have to live in Russia. For example, if you have a congressman who represents your state or your district, he could be a Russian citizen and an American citizen with a dual citizenship. And that Russian congressman who represents you, he could live in Canada because he likes it there better. Or he could live in Italy because he likes it there better. But he's your congressman of your district of, say, California or Idaho. And that's how it is now run in Russia. This constitutional change that Putin wants in Russia is he also wants these representatives to actually be only Russian citizens. They can't have dual citizenship. And they must have lived in Russia a minimum of 25 years. And I think preferably they have to be born and raised in Russia. So he's making quite a few changes. And that's probably why one of the predictions that was posted on Twitter by Entheos, I believe it is, predicted that Putin would get killed because of internal strife. And you can see why. Because there's a lot of games going on, a lot of cash flow, a lot of good business models that cash flow really well with these representatives who are not Russian citizens at all, who don't want their cash flow to be squeezed off by these constitutional changes by Putin. So that's my 2 cents about this implosion of the Russian government. Let's look at Israel. Israel, Amit Segal. Oops, let's scroll up and look at the headline. And this was posted March 26, 2020. Meet Israel's new center-right religious unity government. These two guys will be running Israel. He'll run it for 18 months, and then Netanyahu will run it for 18 months. So it's kind of a tag team. And of course, everyone's upset about that too. Well, people are upset when you take away their feeding trough. The old deep state. Every country has a deep state, believe me. So Amit Segal was the first to report what has now been reported by all the media. Israel will have a center-right religious unity government led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and joined by Benny Gantz as foreign minister. The blue and white party has already collapsed and split up. Yair Lapid is going to head the opposition. Reports are that within his party, they're openly cursing Benny Gantz, of course. Cursing. You can just scroll through that. Anyway, here's the headline. It's the Jewish press. Let's look at some more. Netanyahu's power is extended as rival accepts Israel unity government. This is a new government. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and his former challenger, Benny Gantz, agreed Monday night to establish a unity government, a deal that finally breaks a year-long political impasse and keeps Mr. Netanyahu in office as he faces trial on corruption charges. And what about those charges? Here's 5 key takeaways about the Gantz Netanyahu deal and Israel's new and improved government. What are these things? Here's one. The Israel government is back in business and wants to tackle the killer virus. We're all going to die. Netanyahu is still prime minister, at least until next year. But Netanyahu is still going on trial. Israel is now preparing to annex parts of the West Bank. And finally, we're still in uncharted territory, of course. And here's one last thing, and this was posted May 7, 2020. Unanimous court permits Netanyahu to assemble new government, even though 11-judge panel of Israel's High Court of Justice on Wednesday night ruled unanimously that there is no reason to interfere with the assignment of Benjamin Netanyahu, the job of cobbling together the next coalition. I'm sure it's more than just cobbling, you guys, but anyway, the next coalition government, nor is there any legal problem with the coalition agreement between the Likud and the blue and white parties as it stands now. Let's look at some more. Okay, as I said, secession, that is how governments also implode, is through secession. But the overall underline is finances. So here we go with Catalonia. We heard quite a bit about this probably 5 years ago. This is posted June 2nd, 2018. There does not seem to be a whole lot of current stuff on Catalonia, but the Spanish Madrid's direct rule ends with the new Catalan government. And this is just a short blurb. So here's a ceremony. The ceremony marks the end of a period of direct rule of that government of Spain in Catalonia by Spain's central government. Ouch, that must hurt. I'm not sure how they work that because Catalonia is the cash cow of Spain. So I don't see how they just let that go. This gentleman, Puigdemont, he was a member of the government. He was arrested and he ran away because they were going to kill him for wanting to secede and take all their money away. Come on. And let's take a look at him. Catalonia's Carles Puigdemont opts out of the presidency, and he actually recommended Mr. Torra to be the new president of Catalonia. And is that it? And that's it. Oh, we can't forget China. Here we go. Now, Hong Kong wants to separate from China. There's a lot of secession here. This is the collapse of a government. China will not tolerate attempts. China is very intolerant, you guys. It's the most intolerant country on the planet, or the most controlled. I'm sure there are others. But they will not tolerate attempts to separate Hong Kong from China. State media. Shanghai. Hong Kong is an inseparable part of China, and any reform of secession will be crushed like a grape. The state media said on Monday, a day after demonstrators rallied at U.S. consulate to ask for help in bringing democracy to the city. And of course, President Trump signed a proclamation or agreement or something saying that the United States stood behind Hong Kong. This was posted September 8, 2019. So these are just a few little snapshots of what it looks like as Pluto, the planet, the big planet with a small planet with a big influence, the biggest influence on this planet, goes through the constellation sign Capricorn, which is the collapse of institutions. Institutions also include big old status quo institutions like our public school system in the United States. How is that doing so far? Students aren't showing up to these buildings. What are we going to do with all that real estate? What are we going to do with all those administrators that we don't need anymore? That's a collapse of an institution, a big institution. There are many others that are collapsing, and that's what it looks like when big institutions and governments collapse. It's messy. It's messy and it's painful, but that's what happens when there's a death, a transformation, in order to have a rebirth to something better. So that is the update for yet another trend that is in play that's causing us a lot of excitement. So this is JJ from Paranormal Talks, paranormaltalks.com, and we'll be talking to you later. Thanks. Take care.